Wow, it was a wild day on Wall Street. We did see the Dow Jones Industrial Average reach yet another record high, and NASDAQ, though, was getting hammered at the same time. And it was simply a case of live by the sword, die by the sword, as just a few tech names weighed heavily on NASDAQ. Google, Facebook, Netflix, NVIDIA. In fact, down volume was 2-to-1 to up volume, but still on NASDAQ, you had 310 stocks that closed at new 52-week highs and only 28 at new lows. Now, the more intriguing story for me was the terrestrial versus celestial. I'm talking brick and mortar names. Really soared big time, led by names that many people given up for dead. Target, Macy's up huge. Meanwhile, Amazon was down almost 3%. Recent earnings results underscore the fact that there will be some brick and mortar survivors and winners. Meanwhile, though, the most important story of the day, the biggest news, was the revision of third quarter GDP growth. President Trump tweeted about the number, and I actually think in this one he downplayed the significance of it. Of course, it doesn't matter to the mainstream media, which found other tweets more compelling. Think about this, though. Economy growing, excluding hurricane effects, CEA estimates that real GDP growth would have been 3.9% in third quarter. Consider that 3.3% growth was driven by a spike in corporate profits, up almost 5% sequentially, 10% from a year ago. Corporations then took that extra cash and used it to invest in business equipment. That was up 7%. But I have to take a quote from Ron Propelli and say, but wait, there's more. The Atlanta Fed now modeling for 3.3% growth in the current quarter. That would make it 3 in a row. Can you say hashtag winning? Of course, today the wildest ride in the market was actually in the Bitcoin market. Let me ask you, if a stock or a major index had rallied 15% to the upside, then crashed 19%, and then finished unchanged, you would say, man, that was a wild year. Well, that describes the last 24 hours for Bitcoin. The cryptocurrency is becoming so hip, Katy Perry asked Warren Buffett about it today, and NASDAQ announced that they plan to launch a Bitcoin futures market in the first half of next year, and Cantor Fitzgerald wants to involve it in derivatives. Fans of Bitcoin point to 3 key value propositions. First, a limited supply of 21 million. Almost 17 million have been mined. Distrust of fiat currency and corrupt governments, including, by the way, the United States. And anonymity in a world where we are losing all of our privacy. Here to discuss now, Naomi Brockwell, a former New York Bitcoin Center Director of Policy. And you were one of the very first people to pound me. You were like, you've got to do this. I would bump into you in the halls years ago. Yeah. You put a video out where you touted Bitcoin at 306. Yes, no, 360.
360, right. I made a music video. I actually did a cover of a Taylor Swift song, so I hope Taylor doesn't sue me. But it was at $360 at the time.
I did math earlier today. If someone had put 10 grand in when you said that, at one point today, that 10 grand would have been $305,000. That changes people's lives.
Now, the question is, did you buy in to Bitcoin since the last time we spoke?
I did not.
Charles, what are you doing?
So that's the question. Is it too late?
Listen, I'm not here to give investment advice. I'm here to say that
you've been a proponent of Bitcoin. Do you still like Bitcoin?
Long term, I remain bullish on Bitcoin.
You're waffling a little bit. You weren't like this before.
Listen, I think that Bitcoin is a world-changing, is a revolution. It's a financial revolution. It's a game changer, and I am incredibly excited about it. Does that mean that if you buy and sell in a year, are you going to make money or lose money? I don't know.
Well, it's the same thing to the stock market, but you still feel convinced long term that this changes the way we bank, the way we live, the way we do.
I mean, yesterday I emceed a conference, Consensus Invest. It's the largest blockchain conference in the world. And from my point of view, it was generally bullish there. These are really smart people, and it's an purely investment conference. And it was exciting for me to hear different investment advice, different strategies.
By the same token, Naomi, there's a lot of quote-unquote smart people who said this is a scam, this is a bubble, this is a modern-day tulip phenomenon that's going to end miserably for folks. Now, what are they missing? What are they getting wrong? Because I went down to value proposition. Okay, it's great. Do you trust there will only be 21 million Bitcoins ultimately mined? It's a counter currency to fiat currency. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, but are those valid value propositions for people to put their hard-earned money into? Because what backstops Bitcoin?
Well, I would rather bank on the fact that, maybe Bitcoin will collapse, maybe I'll lose everything, right? But it's a sure thing that I'm losing 2% a year, keeping all my money in US dollars. That's a sure thing. And I would rather gamble on a new technology that was specifically designed as a revolutionary currency, as an ideal currency. I would rather bank on that than on the government money.
What do you make of the idea now that is becoming popular? It's entering the lexicon of the mainstream America. Does that help it? Does it hurt it? Because today we saw the wild ride that it's had. As more and more people get into this thing, the volatility, it's not unlike the NASDAQ bubble that we saw where it did implode.
Listen, a lot of people compare it to that, but if you look at the number of people who are just learning about Bitcoin for the first time, who haven't yet entered the market, I mean, there's a tiny fraction of the population of the world that uses Bitcoin. I think that there is huge room in there for people to get involved.
I think there's a role for cryptocurrency, and I give you congratulations, and hopefully you'll come back more, maybe when it hits 20,000.
I'll be back here next week then.
All right, good to see you then.